This Let's Edit with Media Composer tutorial is brought to you by VideoGuys.com, the leading reseller of video editing and production equipment for more than 25 years. And by Boris Effects, a leading developer of visual effect plugins, titling, video editing, and workflow tools for broadcast, post-production, and film professionals. Hey everyone, Kevin P McAuliffe here, and I am back again with another Let's Edit with Avid Media Composer tutorial. And in this lesson, since we've now started to talk about bins, I want to sidestep just a little bit to talk about the Avid Attic. In this lesson, we're going to focus on the attic, how we're going to get in and decide how often we want to have our bins auto-saved, and where we're going to be able to find that attic outside of Media Composer so that we can get in and pull back a bin if, for example, let's say the client said they didn't need a sequence, so you've deleted it, and 2 hours later they've come to you and said, oh, by the way, remember that sequence I told you we don't need? Well, we actually do need it again, and you need to step into the autosave, or in this case, the Avid Attic, to get it back. Now, as always, before we get rolling, I always love to show off some of the footage from our footage partners, artgrid.io. And all of this footage that you see in this tutorial can be downloaded, plus thousands and thousands of other clips over at artgrid.io. And don't forget to use that link in the show notes so that you get 2 months off any of their yearly subscription packages. Alright, so let's Command or Alt and tab into Avid Media Composer. Now, this is always a lesson I like to try to do towards the beginning of learning Media Composer because it's always an exceptionally important one when we talk about auto-saving. Now, I didn't get much into settings like I normally do when I teach Media Composer because one thing I want to do is to sort of talk about specific settings as we go, because you can end up forgetting them if we deal with them really too early when getting in and learning all about Media Composer. So at this point, what I want to do is I want to stop and start talking about bin settings. And the bin settings and the attic are going to go hand in hand with each other. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that right now. Now, to call up our settings, very simple. Control Shift and equals or plus on the keyboard. Command Shift and the equals or plus sign on the keyboard. That will, of course, call up our settings. For our bin settings, they are a user setting. So I'm going to head to our user settings. And I'm going to come down not to our bin views, but to our bin settings. Now, briefly before we move on, I just want to talk about these first three options: Autosave Interval, Inactivity Period, and Force Autosave At. Now, I know they might seem like it's a little bit odd. Why do I have three options in here? Let me just briefly break down what these mean. The autosave interval is fairly self-explanatory. Right now it's set to 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes, Media Composer will make a backup of whatever bins are open. However, if you happen to be working, Media Composer is doing something, it will not back up until there is an inactivity period of 15 seconds, meaning Media Composer is sitting there not doing anything for 15 seconds. For me, I'd probably set that to 5, but we have it set at 15. Force autosave at 17 minutes means that no matter what the system is doing, no matter how fast you're editing, doesn't matter what is going on, it's going to stop you doing what you're doing to make an autosave. Now, for the sake of simplicity in this lesson, I'm really only going to focus on the autosave interval, our maximum files in a project's attic, and the maximum versions of a file in the attic. What these mean, how important they are, and then how we're actually going to track the attic down so that if you need to bring something back, you can. Now, most people think, well, why would I ever need to go in and pull something out of the attic? The easiest example I can give you is that if you set your autosave interval to be too long, you'll notice right now it's set to 15 minutes. I can get a lot of work done in 15 minutes. So normally what I will do is I will reset that and put it to 2 minutes. But what's going to happen now is that if I realize that, let's just say a few hours ago, I had deleted a sequence that the client now wants to get back, assuming I've set up my bin settings correctly, I will easily be able to go back and get that, open it, and then bring it forward to use it in the current bin or the current sequences bin that I happen to be working with now. All right. Now, again, like I said, what I first do is I get in, and because I work quickly, I set the autosave interval to be every 2 minutes. Now, depending on your work, if you're new to Media Composer, you might want to set this to be 5 minutes, maybe even 10 minutes until you really get rolling. I probably, once you get rolling, wouldn't set it any longer than 5 minutes because you're going to want to make sure that you are saving on a regular basis. Now next, the maximum files in a project's attic. Now keep in mind, we're not talking about the entire system, we're talking about this project specifically. Now 1,000 is, it's a lot. It might seem like a lot. You can always get in and set this to be more if you want to. You're really only limited by the space that you have, in our case, on our C drive. Now, this is one that plays a big importance. The maximum versions of a file in the attic. So what is important to keep in mind about Media Composer and how it works differently than other applications like Premiere, like Resolve, is that inside of Media Composer, the project is really just a shell that holds our bins. Our bins are what are important. Our bins are what is being auto-saved, not the project, the actual bins themselves. All right, in Premiere, the project is being auto-saved. In Resolve, the project is being auto-saved. In this case, if I only have one bin open, only that bin is going to be auto-saved into the attic. So here's how you have to think of things. All right now I have my autosave interval set to be every 2 minutes. With a maximum version of, for example, this bin here, what I should actually do here is just rename this clips, just to make our life easier here. Okay, there we go, clips. I'm going to come back in here just so I can refer to it as the clips bin and not the let's edit bin number 1. All right, so what's going to happen now with this bin is that every 2 minutes it's going to be saved for a maximum number of this specific bin being 50. What we now need to do to figure out how much time that is actually going to allot to us to save is to multiply the autosave interval by the maximum number of versions of a file in the attic. So basically 2 times 50 is 100, meaning that's 100 minutes of backup that we'll get, meaning that's about an hour and 40 minutes. All right, so you can see where this is really going to start to become important. For me, I normally like to have a little bit more of this saved. So what I have to do is I have to now decide, do I want to extend the autosave interval or the maximum number of versions of a bin? What I'm going to do is just double that to make it 100. So this way I now have 200 minutes of backup, which means that's about three hours, just a little bit more than 3 hours of a bin being saved into my attic. All right. So that now does beg the question. How do we get in and actually find the attic where things are being backed up to? Let me show you. What I'm going to do is say, okay, I'm just going to close my settings, and what I'm going to do is just minimize Media Composer. All right, and now that we are at the desktop, I'm simply going to hit Windows and E because I am on a Windows machine, Command and N for all my Mac friends. I am going to put the location of the Avid Attic for all my Mac friends on the screen right now, so that you can follow along. What we're now going to do is we're going to head to the C drive. We're going to head to Users, into Public Documents, into the Avid Media Composer folder, and you'll notice we have the folder for the Avid Attic right here. Now today is actually the 12th of September, so as you can see we actually have an update from the Avid Attic as of the 12th of September. I'm going to head into our Let's Edit folder, into the Bins folder, and you'll now see that I have a folder called appropriately enough Clips, because remember, I renamed it from the Let's Edit bin to be Clips, and there is the backup of that bin that I have open right here. Now you can open this bin a couple ways. You can open it directly from this folder. What I normally prefer to do is to copy it, paste it to the desktop, and open it from the desktop, because in most cases, if I'm going to be pulling something out of this bin to put into a current bin, I normally will be deleting it from the desktop when I'm done with it. Now, something that's important to keep in mind. I'm going to come back down to Avid Media Composer, and I'm going to hit Control or Command and O to open a bin. I'm going to head to the desktop here. Let's go to the desktop. I'm just going to come down here, and what I want to open is that bin, but you'll notice that I actually don't see it here anywhere. And what I'm going to do is just scroll down, and you'll notice that I don't actually see that bin anywhere. It's not actually here. So what's going on? Well, what's important to keep in mind is that when I brought that bin out of the attic, you'll notice that it's called actually .1. It's not actually called .avb. Now I could get in and rename that bin if I wanted to, or the easiest way to get around that is to simply go to Open a Bin, head to the desktop, choose to open all files, and now you'll see that bin on your desktop. Now, here's another problem. As soon as I say open, you'll see that Media Composer is going to give me an error and tell me that it can't open a bin that is already open. So what I do in this case is I'm just going to say okay, is I would close this bin. I'm now going to open that bin from the desktop here. Let's just make sure we go down to here. There it is. And what I would now do with this clips bin called clips.1 that's now appearing in the other bins is I normally make a bin called bump or a bin called copy over or a bin called restore that I can then take whatever files I need, move them into that bin. I then close this. I'll delete it from the other ones, and then I can move any of the sequences or clips that I need to bring back to whatever current relevant bin that they need to go to. All right, now as I wrap up, in every lesson I always show you some great footage from our footage partners at artgrid.io. And if you want to subscribe, don't forget to click on that link in the show notes because that will give you 2 months off any of their yearly subscription packages. And don't forget, our good friends over at Video Guys are going to give you 5% off any of your purchases by simply using the coupon code of MC101. And I also want to give a big shout out to the team at Boris Effects, makers of Continuum, Sapphire, and Mocha. And don't forget to use that coupon code of MC101 to get 10% off your next Continuum purchase. If you like this tutorial, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And don't forget, if you have any questions, you have any comments, or you have any tutorial requests, don't hesitate to send them to me at kevinpmcauliffe@gmail.com. This has been Kevin P. McAuliffe. Thanks a lot for watching.